Hi, it's Marcia Tuft here with the Mooney Tales podcast. And for our first episode in 2024, I want to welcome my friend and fellow indie author, Kat Russell, who writes the Pearls of Wisdom series. And she's going to talk about her very first book, um, The Pond of Reflection, which is a reader's favorite gold medal award-winning book. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about the book and the other awards you've won? And what got you inspired to write this book in the first place? Why you started becoming an indie author?
Okay, well, those are big questions. So they really are. Okay, so basically, the Pond of Reflection, it has received three awards. It got a Reader's Favorite Award in 2022. In 2023, it got Best Children's Audio in a Reader's Favorite. And then just year, it has received a Book Excellence Award. So it just seems to be the one that is snagging the attention of people. Even though I have written four, I still love all of these books, but I do, this one is this really is close to my heart. So just really fast, The Pond of Reflection is really geared towards the tween years. It's a story with it's a fantasy adventure, and it is a story with animals, and that's very specific. There's a specific reason why I decided to go with animals and not people. And the reason why is because I wanted every young person to be able to read into the characters without having a particular face. Like, for instance, if I had a young white Caucasian girl with long blonde hair, what would someone from Japan or someone from South Africa, how would they really, really relate to those children?
Mhm.
And, and so those characters. And so I said, okay, make them all animals so that you get through that and actually see the hearts of the characters. So that's the whole point of the that. So
And
anyway,
I
just bottom
love that. I
line,
love that about the book, that it's
yeah,
so universal because it's not limited to specific stereotypes from, you don't have the mean girl or the adventurous boy. You just have four adventurers that are the heart of the story.
exactly. And they are very unique in their different characters, and they're quirky, and they kind of show a different side of myself. Mr. This the horse. The horse is, very vain and thinks he's very handsome. Journey is very sweet and adventurous. The toad is very empathetic, and the owl is not empathetic at all, but he's wise. So, I mean, it's kind of like everybody has their own characters. And basically, it's just she's coming of age. She's actually a princess of a king, but she doesn't know who she is. And so the king has allowed her to ride out on a quest to find out who she is. And she meets these characters along the ways, and they have all of these adventures together, and they grow together, and they find out who they are. So it's kind of the basis foundation for the book. So
So, are you ready to read the first couple chapters for us?
I would love to. So thank you very much. Okay, you guys, this is the first two chapters of The Pond of Reflection. All right, chapter one, The Mirrorless Kingdom. Once upon a time there lived a great king. The king was good and kind, wise and courageous, although one might not think so at first sight. For this king was a mouse, and if it were not for the crown on his head, one might initially mistake him for any other mouse. Being a wise king, however, he knew his heart to be courageous and kind. And so to him, what he looked like from the outside was not as important as who he knew he was from the inside out. Being confident on the inside was so important to him that by his command no mirrors were allowed in his kingdom. He wanted all creatures in his realm to know their own hearts and to be happy with themselves just as they were. All the creatures, great and small, who lived happily under the king's protection, knew just how good and kind, wise and courageous was their king. for they were all content and celebrated many festive occasions with the king and his court. Each day all enjoyed the goodness of the king's realm, which reached as far as the eyes could see. In fact, it reached so far that wherever one found oneself, one was under the king's rule and keeping. It was a beautiful kingdom with sprawling forests, glens, meadows, and mountains, and rushing, gushing rivers descending to a vast blue ocean. For ages and ages, all was well in this kingdom, without any creature minding that a mirror could not be found. Bears happy to be bears, foxes as foxes, goats as goats, and bees as bees, all but one, that is, the king's daughter. Yes, the king did have a daughter whom he loved very much, and she in turn loved him. She called him Papa, and he called her my daughter, even though her real name was Journey. She was growing up to be like him, for she too was good and kind. However, being so young, she had not yet had the many experiences and adventures that made her father wise about many things. Even so, she was growing up and throwing a coming-of-age birthday party this Saturday next, with the entire kingdom invited to celebrate the grand occasion. Papa, Journey asked, may I have a mirror for my birthday? It would be lovely to know who I am by seeing what I look like to others. My daughter, replied the king, who does your heart say you are? Journey hung her head as she replied, Papa, I'm not so sure of myself. My heart tells me I am good and kind like you, but I might be other things too, and I think perhaps seeing my reflection will help me know who I really am. I see my paws and my feet and the tips of my whiskers, my soft, fuzzy tummy, and my tail just like yours, but what if I'm not really a mouse, but a rat, or a vole, or a gerbil? Ah, her father replied with a twinkle in his eye, I think I would love you just as much if you were a rat, or a vole, or a gerbil, but alas, you are a mouse like me. Do you think your heart would be any different, packaged any other way? This is what I don't know, Papa, she said, holding her father's mouse paws and gazing up into his face. The king smiled at his daughter, who seemed to be growing up right before his eyes. I do not have a mirror to give you, he finally replied. It's not that I have anything against mirrors or think it's terrible to see your reflection. I simply would rather you develop a sense of who you are by your heart and be bothered less by the outside in. Therefore, I have ordered mirrors not to be present in my kingdom. All the kingdom creatures seem happy with this arrangement, but you are less so, my daughter. Journey hugged him and kissed him. She kissed his mouse paws. She knew her father was wise, but she needed to find out for herself if his words were true. Then and there she decided on her plan. Papa, I love you and know you are wise. I ask that my birthday present be, if not a mirror, your permission to ride out on my birthday, the Saturday next, on a quest to find out who I really am. With love in his eyes, he said, my daughter, I grant you my permission to ride out on this grand adventure to discover who you are. I will give you my own mighty steed to guide and protect you on your way. He will watch over you and will bring you home to me when it is time for you to return. Hearing these words, Journey leaped up into her father's lap and kissed him over and over on his forehead and cheeks and nearly knocking off his crown. He bellowed with laughter. The sound rang throughout the castle and all nearby could hear the joyful clamor. Chapter 2, the quest begins. The Saturday next finally arrived, and the festivities were about to begin. Every creature throughout the land had come to celebrate Journey's coming-of-age birthday. She emerged from the castle gates sitting on her father's steed and greeted the creatures of the realm. But to their great surprise, she announced that instead of celebrating her coming-of-age birthday, she was riding out on a quest to discover who she was. After bidding all farewell, she turned the mighty steed toward the king's highroad. All the creatures waved tentatively in return, feeling a bit disappointed, for they loved parties with goodies and would have much rather have been eating cake. and celebrating her birthday. Journey and Mr. Steed traveled far and wide over mountain passes and through deep river gorges. She and the mighty steed rested at night under the fresh-smelling pine trees in the soft grass. Mr. Steed never left Journey's side. He took great pride in being the protector in his role of the king's personal horse. Day turned into night, turned into day, until one day they met a toad on the road. When Journey saw the toad, she gently whispered to her father, Steed, "Mr. Steed, promise me you will never reveal to anyone that I am the daughter of the king. For this quest is for me to discover who I am, and I do not wish for any creature to know me as a princess." To which Mr. Steed nodded his head, his mane falling over his eyes. The toad was green and bumpy, with rather large bulging eyes, and looked rather unappealing to Journey. She, Mr. Steed, and the toad just stared at each other until the toad finally spoke. "Who are you, Ribbit? And why do you pass this way?" he croaked. "Please, sir, my name is Journey, and this is Mr. Steed. I am on a quest to find a mirror, to see myself and discover who I am. Do you happen to have a mirror so I can look at my reflection to see how others see me?" The toad sat there speechless. So Journey continued. "You see, I was going to celebrate my coming-of-age birthday, and I realized I didn't fully know myself. I thought finding out what I looked like could help." As she was speaking, she saw the bulging eyes of the toad begin to glisten. Then, much to her surprise, the toad did a very strange thing. He hopped up onto a nearby boulder and started to weep, with large tears dropping from his bulging eyes. "Oh, my dear Mr. Toad, whatever is the matter?" Before Journey finished her sentence, she had dismounted in an instant, stood next to him by the boulder, and held his hand in both her own. Mr. Toad let out a mournful croak and then shuddered. "Alas, Ribbit," he hiccuped, "I wish I could help you, but I do not have a mirror either. By order of the king, no mirrors exist in this realm. You did not know? I thought all creatures were content to know themselves from the inside out. But now that I see you are not content, it makes me sad." His tears started all over again. As she tried to comfort him, Journey saw how sensitive and caring he was, and he now did not look disagreeable at all. Journey squeezed Mr. Toad's hand and kissed away the tears from his cheek. Before she could say anything, however, an owl swooped in from a large tree and landed in front of the boulder. "Ooh, I know what you can do," hooted the majestic bird, who had golden orb-like eyes that never seemed to blink. "Legend has it there exists a beautiful pond of crystal clear water as smooth as glass somewhere in the kingdom. It is called the Pond of Reflection because the water remains motionless, offering a perfect reflection of anyone who gazes into it." "Why, this is wonderful!" exclaimed Journey, jumping back from the boulder to stand before the owl. "Mr. Owl, can you help me find this pond of reflection so I can gaze into it and see my very own reflection in its waters?" "Well, hooted Mr. Owl, we will need to go on a quest to find it, if this is what you wish to do. I can fly overhead as a scout in the air, and I can cover many miles without tiring," said Mr. Steed, who was now approaching the threesome. "I will be your faithful protector against harm." As he said this, he threw his head back and shook his head, allowing his long white mane to tumble over the other side of his strong neck. Mr. Steed was a very handsome horse, with a long white tail and a pale blue hue to his body, which was dappled with brightly colored polka dots. Clapping her mouse paws, Journey said, "Yes, of course, Mr. Steed is here to protect me and be my guide on my quest to know who I am. He can protect all of you if we continue together." "Ribbit," croaked Mr. Toad, "I'm coming too. I have never been on a quest before, and it sounds quite daring, adventurous, and maybe even scary at times. But if you are all going, then so will I. And for some reason none could understand, Mr. Toad started to sob once again. Mr. Toad, whatever is the matter? Exclaimed Journey, handing him her large handkerchief. Ribbit, he spluttered. I've never had friends before, and now I am so happy to be going on a quest with 3 new companions. Mr. Toad hiccuped as the others laughed, which then made him cry some more. This settles it, exclaimed Journey, as she mounted Mr. Steed, pulling Mr. Toad up with her to ride bareback behind her. Scout on, Mr. Owl! Lead on, Mr. Steed! Together we continued the quest for the legendary Pond of Reflection for answers to who I am. With these words, Mr. Steed leaped forward at a gallop along the road whence they came, while Mr. Owl swooped into the air and circled above. All were delighted to be going together on a quest. Even Mr. Toad felt a new destiny awaited just around the bend.
And of course, like any other journey quest tale, there are hardships and things they must overcome in teamwork and lessons
Absolutely.
learned along the way. As they say,
That's
the goal
yeah,
is seldom, people are often disappointed when they reach a specific goal in their life and they don't realize it was the journey that's more important.
very,
And
very
I
true.
think your book kind of shows the importance of the journey.
Yes, they have different exercises that they have to go through. You know, the first thing that happens is,
And don't give away too much of the plot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
well,
this
some
is not a tell them the
spoilers.
end goal, but I think we've whet their appetite a little bit. And I
Yes,
hope our listeners will be motivated to pick up your very award-winning special book,
thank you.
which is wonderful for, you know, kids of all ages, but I'd say probably you're talking, up through the tween years. I mean, this would
Yes.
be a wonderful bedtime story even for younger kids.
Well, exactly. And so that was a big learning curve for me is who did this pertain to and really know it is so important as an author to know your genre and to know your age and who your target audience is. And it was actually a journey myself to figure out exactly this because because the books grow a little bit, and so as you
Yes.
can see the book 4 is heftier, and so but it still skews from like a young tween to an older tween, but it kind of grows gradually through the 4 books and beyond. So yeah, they're growing up. You
So
know, these books became the Pearls of Wisdom series, and all of these stones were put in place as these were going. But what fell out of this, I wrote the entire book, The Pond of Reflection. I had and was working on it and reworking on it, and I found this just kind of fell into my lap. But there was I ran across a biblical proverb. Proverbs is a wisdom book.
yeah,
It's
it's one of my
it's
favorites.
yes, it is a wisdom book. And so what fell out of here I am doing this whole ponder reflection, and then what fell out in practically in my lap, it says Proverbs 27:19, as water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart. And so that is, excuse me, that is the motivation behind the story. And so every story is a creation, just a creative whimsy fantasy adventure, but it's based off of a proverb. And so that's why it's called the Pearls of Wisdom, because you take it and go wild with it. And I hope, like you want to equip young people, I definitely want to equip young people with these, you know, wisdom that is not in this dusty old book that seems to be unapplicable to today, but it's very applicable for now.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast with Catherine Ann Russell, and she's the writer of the Pearls of Wisdom series, which includes The Pond of Reflection, The Last Storyteller, The Zochai Seed, and the
Mhm.
Hyrax Song.
Very good.
And I will be putting the links to that with the podcast so you can find her series page on Amazon and her author webpage and any other links that seem to get you closer to Catherine's work. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you will read The Pond of Reflection. And her books are on Kindle Unlimited. So if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, you can read them for free. Check them out.